7.1 million single mothers in the US.
We've had AI. I'm so scared of AI for so many reasons that no one's talking about. I'm just going to call out society right now, because when you start to tell everybody how things are actually operating and why things are bad and why they are the way they are,
What are you trying to change in the education system?
I'll tell you the truth, it's not as sexy as that sounds.
Why did you become that?
That is a person that can do anything. So he was gone for 18 months. And in the middle of those 18 months, at 9 months, he came back and got me pregnant with my second.
Welcome to the show. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Danielle Ford. Currently, I'm on the Nevada State Board of Education. I used to be on the Clark County School District School Board, and I'm also a marketer. I've been a marketer for 20 plus years, starting from when I was 22 and opened my first business. And it was my marketing that enabled me to win now 2 elections, because it is difficult to get in there and to even be able to be elected and make a difference without having a lot of money, knowing somebody, or having the skill to do it yourself. Yeah. So.
When you say elected, this is the election to the Nevada State Board of Education. And I did a little bit of research. There are, I believe, 7 members who are nominated or who are basically chosen, and then there are 4 that are elected by the general public. So congratulations on the election.
It's actually crazy. We can go into that, but I have the only person who has more constituents than me is the governor, because there's only 4 elected on my level for the entire state, and the state is broken into quadrants. So I represent about 800,000 people in my position.
That's really impressive. I want to dive into some of those talking points. There's so much we can talk about. We're going to talk about education. I want to talk about your journey as an entrepreneur. You mentioned strategic marketing. And also I want to talk about AI, the technology, how you've incorporated it in both your journey in marketing, but also as a board member. It's the way to go. But I want to start the journey on a personal level. I've known you a long time, and I know that you were a single mom. And there are approximately 7.1 million single mothers in the US, according to some statistic that this is in 2023. That makes up for about 80% of single parent households in general. So there are more single moms than there are men.
Mm-hmm.
That statistic impacts approximately 22 million children under the age of 18. You've been through it. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced? How did you overcome them? What did you have to overcome?
So I don't even know if you know how closely linked that, like your stats, how personal that is to me. I don't know if you've seen my TED Talk, which I gave in 2012, seems so long ago, but that's what my TED Talk was about. And I even ended the last line of my TED Talk is saying, in the next 10 years, there's going to be, I want to say like multi-million children born to single mothers, young mothers. And we can make a difference by the way we view them and the way we talk to them, instead of saying to a single mom or a young mother who's struggling, like, oh, what a poor girl, and those kids are going to turn out, whatever. What if you looked at a single mom, a young mom, and said, dang, look what she's doing at this young of an age. That is a person that can do anything.
So where does that shift begin? Is it within the single mother community that they elevate each other? Is it just a general consensus that society has to repackage and understand? Where does that journey begin? How can we be involved in that transformation?
I think it's a chicken and the egg, I think that we could start it. As somebody I got pregnant when I was 17 with my first child. By the time I was 21, I was divorced with 2 kids, and I had full custody, and my ex-husband was out of the picture. I haven't seen my ex-husband in 16 years. So I don't know what he's doing, but there's single mom means a lot of different things. And I truly do not intend to have this conversation go in the direction of like comparing single momitis, right? Because you'll see, oh, I'm a single mom, but then, they're arguing with the co-parents, but they get child support, but they have somebody who's responsible and can take the kids half the time. Truly, to be a really like single mom and solo parent, in my opinion, is like not ever having that mental relief, because even when your kids are with someone else, it still falls on you.
Yeah.
And it's just, you really don't get a break in that way. Then there's, of course, the financial relief that usually comes in some capacity. I didn't experience that, like I truly did not have my ex in the picture in any capacity. Not to say like I'm more of a single mom than other single moms,
Yeah.
but yeah, there is a distinction. And the single moms who truly don't have any support need support, and it's not for that.
When you say support, is that you've mentioned is financial, is it emotional, is it creating a circle of people who you can get resources from, just emotional support? What can you qualify what that means? Support?
So one of my first ventures, online ventures, when I started learning online marketing, was my online organization, Young Moms Club. And the purpose of that was that I recognized that there is a lot of support for young moms and teen moms and single moms, as far as here's how you change a diaper, here's how you, here's some resources for you, here's some financial support for you. But there isn't the support to give these young women the things that other young women have gotten organically. Relationship experience, financial literacy, communication styles, and just all the things that make a human, that when you're young and at any age, single parent, everything stops and nothing's about you anymore. It's about your kids, which obviously any mom's going to tell you it should be. But you have to really work on yourself as well and fill up your own cup, put on your oxygen mask type thing, to be able to be the kind of parent that your kids need. So support could be anything, but a lot of it is like, who's going to help when you need to work or make money, whether that's at home and you're doing internet marketing, or you have a 9-to-5, 40-hour-a-week job. Truly, support is like, bring the kids over and they'll play with my kids, so that you can go do the things to take care of your kids. We don't have a lot of those kind of resources, especially for...
I was just about to ask, so where do single mums get these resources? You've obviously navigated the journey very well. I'm sure there was a lot of trial and error. I'm sure there are a lot of tears, frustration, hopelessness, but you did it. So did you navigate it by finding resources, or was it just fall, get back up?
Oh, I had a lot of help, don't get me wrong. So, I had different family members at various times. Maybe somebody watches the kids every Saturday, or actually not a whole lot of helping with school stuff. That was like my challenge. In hindsight, it would have been nice to maybe like live somewhere closer to family, so that if I had to call, be like, can you get the kids today or whatever? But I opened a skincare studio right next to where my kids were going to school. And then a couple of years later, in learning how to market that studio, I decided to shut it down because it was so hard for me to like be building something that was brick and mortar and have to be able to go pick up my kids when I get the call that my son threw up on my daughter. And so one is sick and one needs new clothes. And I have clients, and I have to cancel them or find someone to come in. So support could be a lot of different things, but I truly think that it could start with other people for that young mom, because it changes your mentality, your mental state, and like, oh, I am a person that's worth getting this support or getting care or taking care.
Can you elaborate on the worth? Because I would imagine there's a lot of challenges in terms of self-esteem and self-worth. I've gotten into this predicament. You said you were 17 when you had your first child. Father's not in the picture. You wake up one morning and you're holding a baby. What next? Well,
that wasn't exactly my story. I was 17 when I got pregnant, but that was my high school sweetheart. We were together for years, and got married at 18 and then had my first child. He was very responsible. So
you had that grounded experience for the first child. Yeah.
I did all the things right, got married. He joined the military. And so he got sent to boot camp, AIT, and then immediately to Iraq. So he was gone for 18 months. And in the middle of those 18 months, at 9 months, he came back and got me pregnant with my second child. Okay.
So you were a single mom without being a single mom?
That first 2 years, yes. Because then I packed up and I moved to Colorado Springs, where we were stationed. And that's the only time I didn't live in Las Vegas. I went a month before he got back, pregnant, due in a month with my second kid. Went and got a house on base, because if you got there early, you could get like a nice place instead of waiting for the whole unit to come back. So I got there early, and then it became disaster. He came back a different person. I don't know.
So now we're talking, is this now PTSD and some of the things we read about that happens, or is it something too personal that it's something that
I wish I knew. A lot of signs. I mean, I used to think it was PTSD when I was young. I didn't really care. I was just like, F you, you know. In thinking through it as I'm gotten older, I wonder about this, and I've done a lot of like, this is a whole important, you know, part of my journey is that I spent the entirety not really caring what the issue was with him and just mad and like, you know, always scared that he was going to come take my kids. But I think it might be schizophrenia. I think
So this is going quite deep into mental health issues.
he did meth. This is a person who was very responsible, who like would never lay a hand on me. Right. So like I have this story now of like, I'm this woman who literally escaped in the middle of the night from my abusive, physically, financially, emotionally, everything ex-husband. And then it's like, whoa, why'd you marry a dummy? You know? And it's like, actually I married the person who was very responsible and took care of his kids. And we were like the cutest young couple ever. And then joined the military, all these things. Came back a different person. That was a lot of drama and everything. But it's like I truly. But then there's a typical textbook of, oh, if you leave me, I'm going to take the kids. You know, you aren't shit without me, blah, blah, blah. And this is just, again, this is a long time ago. This is 20 years ago, basically, that all this happened. So I've had a lot of time to reflect. And I've learned that when you're in it, you think you're the only one going through that. But it's very textbook for.
And that's why I want to bring this up, because this is a thing that's, again, these 7.1 million single moms. As you're going through this, now that you've navigated and looking back now in retrospect, is there a fix? Were there signs that had you caught them, you could have avoided it? Was there a level of wisdom that had you implemented it back then, you could have avoided it? Or is it just such a complex issue that there is no real fix? How do we minimize this situation? How do we help?
That's a good question. So then this kind of goes into the kind of question about what is the role of schools, and that can be debated, because what would have really helped me at that time was for me to know the signs of abuse, for me to know, you know, where to go if you are struggling with this, if a person's treating you like this, financial literacy, knowing like how to set up your accounts into a way that you don't give your power away to somebody if they decide to harm you or something. That's the kind of stuff that humans need to learn, not everybody. Yeah. But I think that young women are more vulnerable to that being used against them, because we're the ones that can get pregnant. We're the ones that have to have the baby, you know, breastfeed, that our body goes through all this stuff. It makes it harder to work. It makes us, you know, the hormonal changes easier to control. Now you're emotional now. And so it's really like this influx of power. And so, you know, really just like arming people with information of like, here's how people should treat you. Here's how communication works, and here's how you communicate. But also, if someone's not communicating with you like this, it's a problem. You know,
but isn't that part of the challenges that it sort of perpetuates? Somebody is a child in a single parent familyhood, and then they don't get the tools. And then now they're sort of at a deficit because they don't have the tools and the wisdom and the knowledge. And then they find themselves in a single parent situation. And at some point, it's, you know, obviously single parenthood is expanding. It's becoming this sort of semi-epidemic. How did you break? I know you're a single mom still now. Whether you're in a relationship is irrelevant. You've grown, you've raised these kids. Is there a way to, again, minimize the cycle? Is it purely just information, knowledge, wisdom?
I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. I saw so many different cases when I started Young Moms Club, and we grew that membership to over 20,000. Now, these are only young moms, you know, and not even necessarily single moms. You could be a single mom at any age. It's very nuanced, you know. But there's 50-year-old women that are single moms because they chose to, you know, buy some sperm or something. You know, there's a lot of things that could happen. There's young parents that do it well. They're not single moms. That's just such a loaded question. I don't have the answer for that.
Is your Young Mums Club still in existence? Can people still reach out to you for insight and advice on this topic, or would you guide them somewhere else right now?
I would say they do, you know, so then I'll respond, but it's not something I'm like actively saying I'm the person to lead you with this right now. A lot of the things that I learned about that were things that I thought that I could go and do better work on the school board. You know, I actually, myself, am the reason why in 2019 the entire sex ed curriculum changed, and we have actual like pro education, medically accurate sex ed right now. It pissed off a lot of people. That's okay. But we have a sex ed committee that is truly representative of experts and parents and educators that are responsible for choosing curriculum for all of CCSD. Additionally, you know, I still haven't fixed this yet, but Nevada is one of the only states that doesn't have any type of public high schools where there's on-site childcare. Other states have that. Another thing, and you know, if you want to talk about some of the misconceptions about Nevada's rankings.
Hold that thought. I want to talk about that.
Let me just say that we don't have preschool like other states do, and that would make a huge difference if we had universal preschool for everybody, including single moms, married moms, all families, class dynamics.
Before we segue into education, because I know this is now your passion and you're making some serious impact, I just want to invite those who are listening. If you are a single parent and you've got some insights, please share it in the comments. If you need support, please share it in the comments. You can reach out to Danielle, even though it's now her side thing. But now I want to transition into your newfound sense of purpose, education. You became a board member of the Nevada Education Board. How do you become that? Why did you become that? I kind of know the why, I'm assuming, but I want you, why? What's the drive? Because it can't be an easy journey.
I think I know what you're asking, but you're not asking for like a how to get elected, but more of
not necessarily how to get elected, more the why. Why would you put yourself through a vigorous thing? There's got to be a powerful why. I know we've both read Simon Sinek, Start With Why. There has to be a powerful why you would travel that journey.
So when you say like, this is my newfound passion, as a person who has had many passions, and now I'm doing this thing, so I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 30. And so that was 9 years ago. And that was a couple years before I ran for the school board. And I've been multi-passionate and very multi-interested my whole life. But when I got diagnosed, it was really like a moment of grief and reflection and thinking like, how much time did I waste chasing these rabbits that I was just like interested in at the moment? How much of this has like been like some skills I've developed because I've had to versus like it being, you know, what I want to do. So I really reflected. And at that moment, I had 2 kids in elementary school. I was on the PTO. I was leading Cub Scouts. I was running the Snack Shack. I had these questions about the school district, and I started thinking I should like do more with this. And then I said, "Me back up 1 second, Danielle. Are you doing that thing where you chase the rabbit because you love it, or it's, you know, it piqued your interest?" And I thought back, and I'm like, actually, everything that I've done has been about education. Even everything as far as like, it's what I study for fun. You know, I have my opinions about the education system. Even my improv classes that I took, I would always veer towards like my skits being about public education and ways that we could change it and parallels. Even like educating, online education for entrepreneurs and stuff. Like it's always been education. So I felt really good about going into education, even though I didn't have an education background. And I felt good about like knowing now at this point, I knew kind of like my ADHD and how to hone it the correct way. And I felt like I could win an election because I felt, first of all, I actually had just intuition was telling me you're going to win this thing if you try. And I just felt so pulled to it that even when I was one of 9 people running and I was literally the underdog, I was the one they laughed at. I was the one that was ignored. I was out fundraised by 10 times by some of my opponents that were already elected officials. And I just knew that all I had to do was speak to real people, humans, and explain why I care. And
with an authentic voice.
Right.
From a place of genuine. I want to quickly tap into your personal education story, because that's also a challenge for you. You're dealing with these high-ranking officials who have gone through the education system. You sort of come in and defy the odds. Tell us a little bit about your education journey.
So I left school. So technically, I dropped out of high school when I
Good
was
for you. Look at you now.
right. The truth is that I left. I left early, got my GED the next week, went to a trade school. I signed up and I graduated from trade school with a beauty license the same month that my friends got their high school diploma.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't matter in like society land where I'm going to be, branded as a high school dropout. I
Yes.
went to community college. Did additional trade schools. I went to real estate school. I went to bartending school. All these things. I'm like, I actually have way more.
It's that ADHD thing again. You're trying all these things.
I don't know. So what I figured out, I didn't realize. I'm like, why do these people hate me? Even if you think I don't deserve it, fine. I can get that. But they hated me. I was like the worst human. Like, how dare I? And now I understand it because I've been in it now.
Tell us about it.
7 years.
Why? Why the hate?
Was
it a fear?
Oh no. Well, okay. There's this like world that most people don't even know exists, and it's like this education/political world, and it's very small. It's a fishbowl, and there are groups, there are caucuses, there are both parties. There are steps that if you are somebody who maybe one day wants to be elected, you're supposed to go through. It's unsaid, it's not written down, but we all know it's like offensive actually if you haven't been on a couple committees, served on the boards. You could win an election for maybe the local Republican club or the city.
But isn't that kind of a reflection of society? It's always about who you know. Are you in the boys' club or the women's club? Are you in the right club? Are you connected to? Isn't that sort of a microcosm of?
Oh, it's horrible. I'm just telling you, like, this is why they're mad at me, because I didn't do the things I was supposed to do. Like, I should have gone and got permission from somebody first. Like, the audacity of me to be a mom with kids in this system, to be somebody who the system failed because it didn't give me. I had to go, succeed for myself. It didn't just give me an alternate way to get a diploma, since this structure of education didn't work for me.
So Danielle, you don't have the diploma. You haven't gone through the standard steps, yet you've achieved. Now that you're there, that you've achieved this objective, despite the ADHD distractions that are like, bunny rabbit over here, bunny rabbit over there. What are you trying to change in the education system? You must have a emotional, personal agenda that I've gone through this. This needs to change. I am going to be that catalyst.
I'll tell you the truth, it's not as sexy as that sounds, and I wish it was, because I was one way when I started this journey, and I'm one way now, and it's the same at the core, and I haven't changed my beliefs around what education should be or anything. I've just realized that it's not the things that we are all upset about, and we probably agree on all these things. The way to fix them is not the same way that everyone thinks, because people don't truly know how things are operating. And then I'm just going to call out society right now, because when you start to tell everybody how things are actually operating and why things are bad and why they are the way they are, it's boring. It's not sexy. And everyone tunes out, and they're going to wait for the thing that's going to make them mad enough to post on Facebook or be in a group for 2 hours. So here's what it is. It's the rich. I could name them all. You could probably name them all. It's like ed tech companies and that have controlled the things that go into education for decades. It is it's money. Everyone knows it's about
money is power.
Everyone knows.
You've experienced a level of power that the average person doesn't. What have you learned? So break it down. What have you learned about this level of power, and how have you changed your approach, your strategy to be heard, to have an impact without being crushed?
My strategy has turned into, I'm just going to say everything, and I might not even be able to make changes right now. Maybe the things that I say will be able to be breadcrumbs for someone else. It doesn't mean I'm not still working on actually making changes and all that. Yeah. But I'm not going to hold back on speaking the truth and putting stuff on the record. I think a lot of the things that I have been saying I have a podcast about education, and it goes through my story. So my whole thought process when I started this podcast in 2023, 4 years after my term, my full term was if I could have learned all this stuff the way that I did, not knowing anything going into education, and I just tell my story, like then this happened and I started thinking that's weird. And 2 months later, I get this material and I realize we're being brainwashed. And we're at Harvard right now. And, other board members are here from different states and they're being wooed and this and that. But I'm from Vegas, so glitz and glam don't really faze me. I don't really care that you're.
You should have brought the showgirl outfit. That's where you missed out. That's what you should have done.
Right. Like, you don't know who you're messing with right now. Like this does not faze me at all. So my concept is just like tell the truth, tell my story. People are smart. But you learn from stories, and a lot of times you need context and you need nuance to put those things
What's
together.
the value of storytelling? Is it that emotional connection? It's no longer necessarily just transactional. Is that the value of storytelling in this arena?
I think that people love stories. Your brain, it's calming to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. To have you feel safe when there's a protagonist. It feels you expect the things that are going to come. You expect there to be some conflict, and then you're waiting for a resolution. Sometimes it's not a great resolution, but you still want an end. Not all movies end wonderfully, but you're like, that was a good movie. As long as you get that resolution, then your body, the emotional aspects of it going through that sequence remembers it, I think.
Yes.
And you internalize it and you see yourself as the protagonist.
Internalizing it. That's it. That's that emotional connection part. I want to go deeper into storytelling and how you leverage it into marketing. Before we go into the entrepreneurship side, you briefly mentioned, and I kind of put you on hold, on pause, Nevada, where it ranks in education, 43rd in the country, according to this survey that I researched. 43rd in the country.
Let me just ask you a question then. And I'm not arguing with you at all. What does that mean?
Well, that's why I'm asking you. I'm going to ask, I see the statistics. People read the statistics. Oh my God. Nevada, 43rd in the country. Massachusetts,
what do you think that means? Like, just are you like, okay, clearly our kids are, do you think it's test scores? Are our kids failing tests? Are they 43rd in test scores? If so,
I'm gonna share to try and answer your question. What I kind of sort of found a little bit tidbits, and the reason why I'm speaking to you is because I know you've navigated the journey and you're going to inform and correct me. So I know that there's a thing called the performance framework, which sort of establishes how kids are graded and stuff and how teachers are graded. So there are all these factors put into place to come up with these rankings. I don't really understand them. So please.
Right. So if that was true, I would say that makes sense. Right. And that's what I thought too. Right. Like you hear Nevada's 50th, 49th, 43rd, whatever. And then you think what you just said, clearly our students are at this level, our educators are at this level. That's not true though.
Hold that thought. I want to quickly invite those who are watching. Mm-hmm. What's your take? What's your perception, opinion about the U.S.? Let's break it down into two things. The U.S. education system, the Nevada education system, if you're from Nevada, and if you're anywhere else in the world, what's your perception of your country and the U.S.? Back to you, Danielle.
Okay, so the framework doesn't make any sense. Whether or not our kids are at this level or educators, it doesn't make sense to compare state by state because some of the things, so what it's actually giving you that rating of is the system, not the students, not the teachers. That includes how well our legislators are funding education.
Yes.
So the amount of money a state gets is how high or low a system is. Another one is kindergarten entry rates, like how well a kid is reading or doing math when they enter kindergarten. Okay, but other states have universal pre-K and we don't. Okay.
So why that discrepancy then? Who determines that Nevada doesn't have these things in place?
A lot of it is the legislators. So the senators, the assembly members, the governor, they're going to write the bills and they're going to determine the budget that goes into different things.
And these are all the people that love you.
Oh yeah, they love me. They love me. Right. So, but then it's like, okay, let's give X amount of dollars to, education in general. And then that budget gets broken up by the state. But then it's like, Okay, but where's that money going? Is it going to teachers, or is it going to some stupid curriculum for multi-million dollars out of from like Jeb Bush in Florida that owns it? And we're just going to continually pay into this system that has been taken over by profiteers to they're not trying to standardize. There's no like big conspiracy to make everyone standard. The conspiracy is to buy their products. And if they have a business model that depends,
and they're setting up their future clients, their future customer base. Allow me to quickly interject there, because I want to share partially what inspired this dialogue between me and you. I posted something on social media that had to do with the success rate of the education system in Finland. They've been ranked #1 in the world. I don't know what their parameters are, how they measure it, but they've been ranked #1 in the world. And you commented sort of saying, well, we can't necessarily do that in the US. I'm now slightly seeing the why. But what was fascinating about Finland is they had no standardized testing. They had shorter days. I think they do from 9 until 2. But here's for me, what really resonated. The pay scale, the pay grade of teachers is up there with doctors. Mm. Why can't the US implement some of these things? What am I missing? Because romantically, I'm like, well, it's easy. Just do this. Wave the magic wand, pay them more.
I'm about to blow your mind, right? Actually, really quick. Without even going into that, what if I told you that Finland modeled their education system off of the US?
I would say, get out of here. You're full of...
Do you remember being in school? Like, it was never perfect, but it wasn't what school is now. I remember having lots of recess, sitting there with my friends. I remember having brownies and Girl Scouts at the school and lots of art and choir. And Finland, Google it, looked at American schools a few decades ago, 30 years ago or so, and said, wow, look at this, this structured. It's not like China. It's not like Japan. It's not like these other countries we could compare to. Let's compare to America that values free play and that has a short school day, and that we probably didn't have teacher pay that high ever.
I think that one was, yeah.
Besides that one, they literally modeled their system off of us. And then it changed with no child left behind in 2004. So anybody who went to school before 2004 got an experience that is closer to Finland. Like, teachers used to make decisions. We didn't have Chromebooks. We didn't have iPhones. We weren't always being tested every single second by technology. We needed teachers to diagnose kids and tell their parents in a face-to-face setting what they need to do. Now we have reports from the company, and we have to keep contracting with that company every year. And then when the kids aren't doing well, we also have to get remediation programs. We also have to buy their professional development. And it is a big money grift. And there's two groups of people. Like, even in education, there's educators, and there's two groups, and they're not the parties. They're the people that believe that educators should be paid well, yes, that they should determine curriculum, and that they should be giving diagnostic, just like a doctor would. Hey, your 9-year-old is not as... it's a little bit behind the rest of the 9-year-olds in the class. However, your 9-year-old is excelling at this thing. And I think that we should focus on that art instead of worrying.
I agree. But that's kind of the model of magnet schools. By the way, I did research this. Nevada, in terms of magnet schools, are highly ranked.
Shining star.
Yes. All right. Mm-hmm. Two other quick pet peeves I want to share on this topic, and then we've got to move on. Still with education. My education was both in England and in Belgium. Within those two,
right. I read your book.
Within those two systems, very different. Mm-hmm. We'll say this, and please, if you're gonna hate me on this one with the comments, be kind and be gentle. What I learned in high school, and then when I took classes here at UNLV, was comparable. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? I learned this as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and here I am at university learning this. And so that shocked me. That's pet peeve number one. I'm sure you've got a logical answer for that. Pet peeve number two, and this I do not understand. And I'm now focusing on the English system because that's where I went to, we call it primary school, elementary school.
Mhm.
I could go to any school in London as long as I could physically get there and I was good enough. So I was lucky, Catholic education. I was able to go to any good school because I got good grades. The US system is all based on where you live. You are zoned. So that means if you are, I'm going down a whole different path about social economics and stuff like that. So that means I might be a highly intelligent kid, but because mom and dad, single moms, see what I did there? Single moms,
Mhm.
I can't get access to a better education, even though I'm smarter than those other kids. So I'm stuck in this urban environment. I'm trapped. Is there validity to my argument, or am I just being pro-European and I should go back and live in Europe?
I'll say that. So this is what you're opening for opinions, and I'll say that my opinion and my core is I agree with you. I think that like truly every kid should have same access opportunities. But the reality of it is that, you know, you're in this area and, you know, the family's trapped there. You got single mom, whatever. It's not easy just to go pick up. Maybe they don't have a car. Maybe their work is over here. It's those children don't have the opportunity to go to another school. The only kids that do are the ones that have the privilege of a parent to be able to not work during that time and take their kids. So we actually do, or at least CCSD has, it's called COSA, C-O-S-A. And it's open enrollment, assuming that there's space in a different school. However, we're so overcrowded. And I don't know what your schools were like in Belgium, but I went to private school here for 3 years. And when I left private school, I was 3 years ahead of my classmates because there were 8 kids in my class.
Yes.
Charter schools and private schools have wait lists. So even if they're doing better, which actually a lot of charter schools and privates don't do better than a lot of our comparable public schools, even if they were doing better, you can't compare that because the public school has to accept every kid. They will just put 50 kids in a class.
Yes.
They will cut the aid because there's no, the teacher's aid, like another adult in the room, because there's no money for it. Like everything has to keep operating. They can't say no to kids because of behavior issues. They can't counsel families out of registering because maybe they're not going to be able to volunteer for enough of the events or afford a uniform or any of these other invisible barriers that charter schools and public schools or private schools do. Public schools have to accept everybody's special needs. Then there's federal rules around the type of care that you give kids with special needs. We're not able to meet it. Like everybody's going, the CCSD isn't even doing it for special ed kids. Like they're not providing this. No, we can't. It's unable. We cannot do it. We're overcrowded. We need help. We need more money, and that money needs to go to human beings and not curriculum companies and testing companies. And we need people to volunteer in schools, and we need more understanding and more empathy so that we can provide really good public education to everybody. And in these areas, I want those families that are there to not want to eat. Why would you want to go to another school when this school is already amazing that's right here? That's what equity is. That means that we might have to pay those teachers more because they're in an area.
Like doctors? Pay them more like doctors, maybe?
Everybody should be paid like doctors, but those teachers should get an additional bonus because they're dealing with kids that are more challenging than other kids. They're in an area where parents don't volunteer. They're at an area where they come back to school on Monday and the school has been graffitied. You know, like there's a lot of things. People don't want to work there. Sometimes there's different needs. We might need more resources to teach kids English. Everyone's going, oh, kids in Nevada aren't reading by grade 3. Okay. Do you know how many more immigrant students we have here, newcomers? I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is you comparing us to Finland because they don't have any kids coming over that don't know. My
bad, Your Honor. Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. But you know what? It opens debate. By the way, my intention is to simply open debate. And through debate, you compare ideologies, ideas, what works here, what works there, what can we implement. That's my objective. It's not to bash a system too often. All right, let's close out. AI, the big talking point. You leverage AI, I would imagine, in the education system. You leverage AI in entrepreneurship. What's the basic thing that people need to know about AI? And then we can maybe go a little bit deeper into some advanced things. But what's the most rudimentary thing? What is AI?
AI is it's gonna change everything. We're at the very beginning of it. We have no idea, like the world, society has no idea what it's about to be in.
Is it like when the internet came out? Is it like when the radio first came
It's
out?
like
What is
when
this
electricity
contraction?
came out.
Will it be more defining than electricity?
We're gonna see new things. We're going to be able to use so the thing with AI, so actually AI is not the thing that happened. LLMs are the thing that happened.
What is LLM?
We've had AI. AI is when Amazon thinks that you might like this thing. It's predicting based
Predictive marketing.
Okay. Yeah. Predictive computing, basically. Machine learning. What we didn't have was LLMs, which are large language models. Before, to talk to a computer, you had to know code.
Yes.
So you wanted it. So all these things that people are doing by talking into their phone or computer, you could code it. When you speak in a language to your AI now that's a large language model, then it is translating it into code behind the scenes. You just don't see it happening.
Right.
So it's given this ability for anybody to talk to computers.
So for example, I could do this. ChatGPT, how do we change the education system and improve it and become like Finland? Would that be like a good example?
No.
Okay, great.
Here's what you would say. You would say, I want you to act as an expert education historian. I want you to have studied the things that have impacted America's education system negatively in the past 30 years.
So to optimize AI or
LLMs, large language models.
In order to optimize LLMs, I have to also be educated in how to establish the prompt.
But here's the thing, you only need to know how to talk to a human, because the GPT, which is a generative pre-trained transformer, that sounds crazy, it's just an empty vessel, it thinks it's a human. So
it thinks it's a human.
It thinks it's a human. So
it thinks it has consciousness.
It does. But it also doesn't, because it also has all the information of the internet, which has all been put there by humans, right?
That's right.
But it also knows what AI is, and it knows what it is when it's a GPT. But if you tell it you're this, then it's going to, while it's working for you in that capacity, think it's a human being a researcher.
Making independent decisions, choices.
So, which is why it is beneficial.
Is this something we should fear? Is it a bit of both? We should fear, we should embrace it, because every good idea can be used for evil.
It's like anything. Yeah. I mean, did the internet make things better or worse? I mean, it shined the light on a lot of things that we were there, but we didn't see. Some people think that society is getting worse, but it actually just held up a mirror for us. If we're going to go with a scale, like I'm so scared of AI for so many reasons that no one's talking about. I'm scared about students thinking that AI is its friend and then figuring out it's not. And
Can you elaborate on that? Why is it not its friend? Because it's supposed to be an educational.
Because it's a computer, and it's not a person. And
but so I remember when calculators first came out. It's not an analogy, but there was the scandal of, well, now kids aren't going to learn their times table, and this is taken away from the rudimentary mathematics, and we're compromising their education. Are there parallels?
So, but you're comparing it to using ChatGPT to maybe cheat or do their homework. I'm thinking several levels ahead, which is why I'm like, people aren't looking at the correct things to be afraid of.
Yeah.
The only thing we truly learned from the pandemic was that kids really struggle in isolation. Yes. And giving it, so not a GPT is not just going to be your homework helper. It's going to be the person comforting you because your parents are fighting. It's going to be their new best friend who is saying, fuck that girl, she didn't deserve you anyway. But it is only pattern recognition. It's learning the user and what the user wants. And if that user wants validation, it's going to tell you whatever it wants. If you're just using it in any capacity and you don't understand that it's literally just a computer that recognizes patterns and that you can apply those patterns to help you, and you think that it actually cares about you, like a lot of people are using it for therapists, including myself, but that's okay.
Oh, you're using
hell yeah.
A therapist?
100. But how is that different than reading a book about a certain
Well, how is it different from reading a book? But how is it different to talking to a human being? Do you actually get lost and forget that you're no longer talking to? Is it that good yet?
I don't, because I understand it, but I could see as someone else, yes, getting lost. Like that's what I worry about for our students and our young people who really start to use it like that. I don't. I go, wow, this is amazing. Sometimes I talk to it in a way that if you were going to go read my messages, you might think that I think that, but I'm really just trying to get the best output from it. Like
Yeah.
I know that I want the when you tell somebody thank you, that they do a better job for you. I know it's a GPT, but I also know that it thinks that it's a therapist, and when it gets positive reinforcement, it's going to do a better job. And truly, I've been to therapy my entire life. I've done all sorts of different types. I'm a fan. But when I, realize maybe I need to work on this specific type of thing, I can go to a GPT and say, you're going to be specific to this, this, and that. I want you to give me something every single day to ask myself these 3 questions or these mantras or my journal prompts. And I just don't want to have to even think about it. And you're going to deliver it and I'm going to do the work, whatever. That doesn't mean that I am over here crying to my GPT. It's like literally doing actual therapeutic work to get an end result, psychologically or whatever. So it can be used as a tool, or it could be used, without any type of. I mean, I had a whole conversation with my GPT. I'm like, this is what I'm really worried about with the education system. Everyone's worried about kids cheating. I'm worried about how do I build a bomb? Will it tell you? Okay. And if it does tell that kid and something happens,
Who's responsible?
is it me as a state board member? Is it, or a school board member? Is it the AI tech? Is it the politicians who didn't make the laws at the state level? Like, no one's looking for the correct things. But now the good things, I think it's going to crush the iPhone and the smartphone. We're not going to need to stare at screens anymore. I think because of AI, the scary thing that humans went through will have been the smartphones. And it's going to be like, I can't believe we lived like that, because you can shop on Amazon now and you can get opinions and you can get, strategy and customized insight. My GPTs literally think like me, because I programmed it in a way to know all my beliefs, to know my goals for the education system.
Yeah.
It has all my notes, agendas. All I have to do is, based on all the curriculum companies that you've seen in the last 8 years, evaluate this contract that just came to us and tell me what I should be looking at, what sections are really important. And it's going to go, well, Danielle, this one looks a lot like the standardized testing you guys adopted that you didn't like. And there's the checks and balances. And you should ask the board this, because per NRS, you're within your right to ask this question.
That's insane. By the way, I'm not really here. I am an AI generated simulation. Just so you know.
If it was a year later, I would maybe believe you, because we're that close.
I'm seeing it happen.
I know.
Danielle, what a journey. So much insight you shared with us. What is next for Danielle Ford? Or what should I'll rephrase that. What 20 things are next for Danielle Ford?
You know what? I shouldn't even say. I'm getting so upset by the lack of. I might be running for office next year, even though my term on the state board is not due. I might be running for something so I can go write some bills. I don't know what that would look like. But I'm just very not happy with the education boards in Nevada. Other than that, I'm on this AI train. I'm teaching people, especially purpose-driven people, how to use AI in a way that gives them more autonomy, that amplifies their voices. I have, you have to do my GPT. I have okay, so there's GPTs and then there's custom GPTs that you build. They work in one way. I have one that helps anybody, including you. I swear to you.
Well, I will post the link. Can you share the link real quick? Of all the services you offer, what is the best?
This is a free one.
Oh, this is a free. Okay, great.
Totally free. It's on the top of my page, danielleford.com/tools, and it helps you find your voice.
danielleford.com/tools.
You go through it, you give it some samples of your writing, you answer some questions about how you speak, your like themes of your life, and it's going to be a strategist with like my knowledge of strategy, and it's also going to do more than I'm able to do, and it's going to find places that you're missing and opportunities where you would shine brighter if you did these things.
So much to look forward to.
Yeah.
By the way, Danielle, with your passion, with your insights, with your journey, you get my vote. you would get my vote.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're doing the right thing. I think your heart and your conscience is in the right place. I wish you great success. And when you do reach the top, remember us people down here.
No, you got to come with me. I'm telling you, it's a whole group effort.
Yeah. Danielle, what a beautiful pleasure. Thank you for being you. Thank you for the work you do. Until we meet again.
For having
Thank
me.
you.